Today I'm going to talk about Uriah Heep. Under my last video about this band, I received so many great and kind comments that I'm still kind of shocked. I never knew I could find so many fans of this band just by posting a video on YouTube. So I want to continue talking about them, and today I will be discussing their second album, Salisbury. On this album, all the songs are very different from each other, which shows that the band was most likely still searching for their direction. But even though it doesn't have a structured flow, it still sounds amazing, and there's quite a lot to explore here. So let's not waste the time and let's dive into it. In my previous video, I mentioned that after Uriah Heep released their debut album, it wasn't widely recognized and actually received some harsh criticism. Many reviews compared them to other bands, and that kind of pushed them to prove that they could go beyond heavy rock and that they can create a blend of hard rock and progressive rock. Therefore, in October 1970, the band went into a recording studio in London and started working on their second album. Even though Ken Hensley joined the band only near the end of the first album's recording, it didn't take long for him to become the creative force behind the second album. Out of the 6 songs, he co-wrote 2 with other band's members, while the rest, including the title track, were entirely written by him. Talking about the title track, there are actually a few different stories about how Salisbury got its name. Ken Hensley once said that the title came from the band's short anti-war phrase, as the Salisbury plains were used as army training grounds. But there is also another version of the story that's totally different. According to some band members, the album was dedicated to the fans who helped the band out. Apparently, after a gig in the town of Salisbury, the police gave the band just 5 minutes to move away all their equipment, and a group of fans decided that they had to jump in and help the guys out. Therefore, no one really knows which version is completely true, but both story fits the vibe of the album. When Salisbury came out in 1971, it was received much better than the debut album, though it still got some mixed reactions. Fans and some critics loved the experimentation and new direction, while others respected the ambition but noted some inconsistencies. In my opinion, most importantly is that the band was happy with their work. Ken Hensley said the lineup had a magic combination of people with a great deal of energy and enthusiasm stemming from their shared commitment to the band goals. Now I'd like to focus on each song and share a bit of the story behind them. Some tracks are a bit mysterious. As you know, bands don't always share detailed origins, but I've tried my best to gather as much information as possible. The opening track on the European LP was Bird of Prey. European listeners finally got a finalized and re-recorded version of the song that had previously appeared on the US release of Very Eevee, Very Humble. In this updated version, the vocals sounded much more polished, and overall the song felt tighter and more powerful, and this time it really hit the mark. It was originally written around the summer of 1979 in Richmond, London. The only confusing part is the songwriting credits. On the LPs from the 70s and 80s, all the band members except the drummer were listed as writers. On the original American release, only David Byron was credited, while later CD reissues didn't include Ken Hensley as a co-writer. Despite all the confusion, Bird of Prey has remained very much alive. It is still one of the songs often played in Uriah Heep's live shows. The Park was written by Ken Hensley and is often seen as an anti-war song. The lyrics use the image of a peaceful park to symbolize an idyllic life, while the heavy heart reflects the sorrow of losing someone to war. This track stands out for being gentle, slower, and much more melodic compared to the heavier songs on the album. Many reviews have compared it to progressive rock because of its mood and structure. It is also worth mentioning that the park introduced a new level of poetic depth of Uriah Heep's lyrics. Up until then, their writing was very simple, but this song felt almost like a piece of English poetry. In many ways, it is a poem set to music. Time to Live tells the story of someone released from imprisonment or perhaps coming back from a long period of hardship and trying to adjust to freedom again. Musically, it is a great example of Uriah Heep's early heavy rock sound, powerful riffs, strong vocals, and the raw energy that defined their style at the time. However, the band didn't really emphasize this song later on, and it slowly faded from their live performances and set lists. Lady in Black was written by Ken Hensley in the autumn of 1970. Inspiration came when Hensley saw a mysterious woman outside his hotel window during a time when he was feeling depressed. She became a sort of muse, even though he never actually met her. David Byron reportedly didn't like the song at first, thinking it was too folk and gentle, so he refused to sing it. The producer, Gary Braun, then suggested that Hensley take on the lead vocals himself. At first, Lady in Black wasn't a massive hit, but it later found a huge popularity in Germany and became a fan favorite at concerts. Over time, it grew into one of Uriah Heep's most beloved songs and became a true classic that defined the band's softer, more spiritual side. High Priestess is another song written by Ken Hensley. Unfortunately, there isn't much information about a specific story or concept behind it. It is one of those tracks that remains a bit mysterious, and it also doesn't seem to be a fan favorite. Salisbury is the centerpiece of the entire album. The song runs for over 16 minutes and features orchestra and brass arrangements written by John Feedy and performed alongside the band. The song really symbolizes Uriah Heep's ambition to move beyond pure heavy rock and explore a more progressive symphonic sound. It is also one of the most ambitious pieces they had ever recorded at that time. Johnny Feedy's orchestral work deserves special mention, as he was an incredibly skilled arranger and his contribution perfectly complemented the band's progressive direction. Thanks to him, Salisbury became a true suite, not just a long track for the sake of it, but a beautifully structured piece of music that feels grand. Over the years, this epic piece has sparked a lot of debate. Supporters praise its ambition and bold concept, even though the idea wasn't entirely original, as other bands had tried blending rock and orchestra elements before, but unlike many of those experiments that faded into obscurity, Salisbury is very much alive today. Of course, there were some critics who pointed out flaws, saying the main theme was too simple or that the execution didn't fully match the concept, but I don't even want to talk about it, as in my opinion it is just a completely nonsense and the song is just phenomenal. Overall, the album wasn't really a big success. It charted in Germany just like the debut album, but in the UK it didn't chart, and in the US it didn't make it to top 100. So the second album might not have been perfect, as some people might say, but it definitely marked a turning point for the band. I've also seen some people mention that they don't really view Salisbury as a full cohesive album. That's why I'm really curious how it is for you. So don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments. And of course, thank you so much for watching.